China and the Republic of Korea established diplomatic ties 25 years ago, and together the countries are facing one of the biggest threats to the region. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu in Washington, D.C., and this is The Heat. The May election of South Korean President Moon Jae-in has signaled a fresh start for relations between the Republic of Korea and China. Chinese President Xi Jinping met with Moon prior to the G20 summit in Hamburg to discuss ways to improve bilateral ties. The U.S. missile defense system known as THAAD has been a stumbling block for relations with Beijing, viewing the system as a national security threat. But both leaders found common ground in their desire to find a resolution to the nuclear weapons program created by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. We begin our coverage with CGTN's Hahm in Seoul. And Shane, President Moon Jae-in reached out to Pyongyang to engage in talks on military and humanitarian issues. Has there been any response? How receptive are South Koreans to inter-Korean dialogue?
Well, I think in terms of dialogue, the circumstances in which it's initiated is very important. Here in South Korea, DPRK policy is an issue that's typically split along political lines. If you look back at the past 2 decades or so, there's been both conservative and liberal administrations here, and there have been attempts from both at engaging Pyongyang through pressure and through dialogue. For instance, the Sunshine Policy in the late 1990s, early 2000s. And prior to President Moon Jae-in, South Korea is coming off of nearly a decade of conservative rule, which saw inter-Korean relations deteriorate pretty rapidly here. And in the meantime, you have the DPRK advancing its nuclear and weapons program. So with President Moon coming in, what we've seen now already in his 2.5 months or so in office, he's shown that he's willing to come out tough against Pyongyang's missile tests, his ICBM tests, but he's also willing to engage in talks with these recent offers to hold these military level and Red Cross civilian talks. But as of now, still no official word yet from the DPRK, and many wonder whether Pyongyang is even interested in talks with Seoul at this time.
Right now, Thursday is the 64th anniversary of the Armistice Agreement ending the Korean War. How will South Korea mark that anniversary?
Well, typically the day it's marked to honor those that fought in the Korean War. The Ministry of Veterans Affairs here holds a ceremony for fallen soldiers. This year, the United Nations Command will be holding a ceremony at the Joint Truce Village of Panmunjom, where the armistice was signed back in 1953. But since then, as the years have passed, it's easy to forget, especially living here in Seoul, that both North and South still technically remain at war. And there was no peace treaty signed at the time, just a very fragile ceasefire that's held up over the past 6.5 decades. And as the two sides continue to diverge, especially economically, surveys here suggest that many younger South Koreans that grew up and have known nothing but a divided Korean peninsula are a bit weary of reunification, and the reason being the various economic and social obstacles to overcome that would come with that.
Now, Shane, the South Korea and the U.S. are scheduled to conduct joint military exercises in August. What is the status of those exercises right now, and are they in any way being seen as controversial?
Right, you're referring to the Ulchi Freedom Guardian drills. They're one of the world's largest computerized control and command drills, and they've been held annually in some form or another for decades. And this, along with the Key Resolve Full Eagle drills in the springtime, they're the 2 main joint military exercises held every year by the U.S. and South Korean militaries. And they also happen to be what the DPRK points to as extremely threatening, extremely provocative behavior. Pyongyang demands a stop to these, what they call war games, and they cite it as a reason to continue to develop their weapons arsenal to protect against these, quote, hostile actions. And as far as this year, no official word yet from either U.S. or South Korean forces on when the Ulchi drills will take place, but officials and experts will definitely be watching a close eye on how Pyongyang responds. We may see tensions continue to remain high up until that point. There's always a possibility of the DPRK conducting another ICBM test or even possibly another nuclear test. We'll just have to wait and see.
Okay, thanks, Shane. That's CGTN's Hahm reporting from Seoul.